I'm Kathy. This is my worm preparation area for food and for maintenance of the worms. The first thing we need is to get our storage containers from the kitchen with the leftovers and cuttings and whatever you don't use on your fruits and vegetables. And I have a handy, what would you call it, food processor that I've had for maybe 15 years doing this, and it's still holding in. It's a basic one by Hamilton Beach. It's quite a trooper. So I put it in there. I cut off any hard pieces that might catch the edge of the knife. Throw that into kind of the refuse bin, which goes out to an outside bin. And then I put this, whatever I have in here, put the lid on. You might want to turn the sound down. And I blend it when I have it plugged in. And I've got quite a few plugs in here because it's also my seed growing area with the timer. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, so here we go. The finer it is, the better, because the worms don't have teeth and the bacteria grows on more surfaces. So, in general, I like to just make a mash out of it. There it is. To this, I have a large container which I mix either equal or more parts of shredded paper or cardboard. So I've got about that much today. First with rubber gloves, take that, put it on top of the cardboard, paper, cocoa fiber, whatever, anything that's carbon, non-living matter. There's a list of very good sources on your worm site. So I mix it together so that it shouldn't be wet dripping, but it should be damp. And so that's an example of the texture. Mix it all together. Then I put a little sprinkle of sand. I usually have crushed eggshells, which I keep in a container, like a net bag, such as this, and hang in the kitchen and let them dry, the eggshells, and then pulverize them in the food processor and put them in a container like this with a lid with holes in it. Use it as a shaker. So that's the worm mix. That's all there is. We'll now take a look at where the worms are. Here we are with several shells over here. I have 1, 2, 3 containers of worms, and if you look, they have like a loose fitting lid. They don't like the light. They tend to shy away from light. And they become wigglers in light, so that's why they're called red wigglers. So if I lift up the bubble wrap, they love bubble wrap. It makes them feel secure and warm. I think you can see the worms busy feeding on their most recent feeding. There's all sizes, from tiny ones to fairly large. This is a larger one. And they're pretty numerous, and they are very hungry, so I have to feed them a lot. I used to feed them just once every week, but now I'm feeding them every couple of days because they are so numerous. So I have a repetition of this box, 3 boxes here, and then over here, we'll come over here, I have another set of boxes, which are even bigger. These guys are really long, and I just slide them out, and I leave things like rotted pumpkin. They love pumpkin. So if you look inside, well, you can see the seeds, but in general, they really gravitate. You see all the little, don't seem to like that pumpkin. Okay, just look under here. You can see they're quite abundant, and they've eaten all their food. So this is feeding time. This is the day I make the food. Usually I make the food much more than that container, but this is just a demonstration. And here's the worm bin that I'm getting ready to bring to the market for people to perhaps buy some. And there's some really big ones. Now these ones are probably Euros. They're called European Reds, and they're actually a composting worm, but they also like paper a little more than regulars, but they still eat compost, and they grow a little bit bigger, and they're especially desired by fishermen for catching fish. But they can live with the other worms mixed together. They just aren't as proliferous. They don't double as much. So people use them more for fishing than for composting. All right, so I just take this. Because I'm disturbing my worms, I'm not going to feed them. I'm just going to let them settle in. So I'll just give the first batch. And if you look down here, you see the liquids on the bottom. You always have to have a tray for drainage. That's the liquid that can be reused in the garden. Some people don't like to use it because they say it's full of byproducts, but just in a big garden, I don't think it matters. So I just take this, and I always feed it, kind of spread it out a little bit so they can access it. They don't have to search too far. And that's just one half of one feeding, really. And cover it again with the bubble wrap. I think they like the fact that it keeps them moist and warm. We keep this area kind of at no higher than like 70 degrees. We have it sectioned off from the heat of the basement. So that's the story on that. As far as separating the worms, I have another video on worm separating, but there are other methods of doing it. For example, you can take something like a pumpkin or a squash or a cucumber or melons. They love the melons, and once you've finished with eating it, you take the skin, the part on what's not been used, or in this case pumpkin, because I don't really cook pumpkin. I'll cut it up and I'll just put it on top, all along the top, and then I'll wait a week, and all the worms will be there at the top. So you can kind of week after week harvest your worms out of the mix. And most of the mix in all of them now is the castings, the part that's kind of like their fertilizer. And so I can start new bins with the worms that I've taken out, and the castings I can mix into a soil mix, usually 20%. It's a good ratio for starting to the rest of the mix. Or you can make a bubbling water in a tub, like for example a 5-gallon barrel and 5-gallon pail, and put a bubbler in it, which is kind of like an aquarium air pump, like something like this, which I plan to use. It's a little air pump with a hose, and I will run the hose in the water with a netting bag of compost, about maybe a liter of that to the 5-gallon pail of water, and let it bubble overnight. You can add a little amendments to make it more activate, because you're increasing the bacteria. You want more and more fungi and bacteria to grow. And then you use that after 24 hours, you stop the pump. You take your sack out and you use that water as a spray, a foliar spray, and it protects the plants. It gives them, it's kind of a natural preventative of getting fungal infections, and they can also absorb it through the leaves. Say you're late in getting your harvesting your castings. This way you can still use the water from the castings as a spray on all the leaves. So that's it for preparing for your worms and using what the worms produce. And there's an interested dog wondering